have 3 jobs, and I'm still struggling. I am a teacher. I tutor after school. I just got through with one of my tutoring sessions, actually. And I also make content. I have 1 full-time job with full benefits, and then 2 part-time contract jobs. And I am still struggling. On paper, we make great money. Yeah, on paper, we make great money. But half of our income a month is our bills, and that's necessity bills. I work 60 hours a week and live out of my car. Here's what that does to your mental. You're always stressed, worried about money, and getting kicked out, or just feeling invisible. We sleep to run away from our problems. We sleep as an escape to feel some type of peace from the overwhelming, overstimulating feeling, that battle in life. Sometimes you don't want to come up with your hat. You know, I work 5 days a week and I still have to use a community shop. You heard that right? More than 8.4 million Americans now hold more than 1 job. That's roughly 5.2 to 5.5% of all employed workers. And that number hasn't dipped below 5% for many months. Something the country hasn't seen since the years following the Great Recession. What once looked like a temporary bump has quietly become the new normal. Behind those numbers are real people. Parents, students, professionals, all doing the same thing. Working longer hours, taking extra shifts, and squeezing time out of their days just to stay financially afloat. Not long ago, having 1 full-time job was enough to cover the basics. Rent, groceries, transportation, maybe even a vacation every once in a while. All of that was achievable with a single paycheck. But today, that picture is changing fast. More and more people are finding that even with a steady job, they can't keep up with the rising cost of living. The math no longer works. What used to sustain a household now barely keeps the lights on. And the reality is this is not an individual failure. It's a sign of a system that has quietly stopped keeping its promises. The promise was simple. If you worked hard, lived responsibly, and stayed consistent, you could afford a decent life. But over the last few decades, that promise has slowly unraveled. Average household incomes have stagnated once you factor in inflation and cost of living. The median U.S. household income in 2024 stood around $83,730, barely higher than in 2019 when adjusted for inflation. According to census data, 5 years of effort, productivity, and price increases have led to nearly 0 real progress. For the top 10% of earners, there's been some growth. But for everyone else, the numbers are painfully flat. The gap between wages and living costs has widened so much that even middle-class families now live one unexpected bill away from financial strain. Housing is where that strain hits hardest. Rent prices have exploded. Home ownership has drifted out of reach for millions. A study by Investopedia found that only 1 in 8 U.S. renters can now afford a median-priced home. That's an astonishing reversal from just a decade ago. Mortgage rates are up. Property values keep rising, and landlords continue to raise rents to match inflation. What was once considered a healthy housing budget, spending no more than 30% of income, is now a distant dream. Many tenants spend 40 to 50% just to keep a roof overhead. Each rent increase sends a ripple effect through the rest of their finances. Groceries get cheaper, savings shrink, and for many, the solution becomes working more. A second job, a third gig, anything to fill the gap. The cost of living crisis doesn't stop there. Groceries, healthcare, childcare, and transportation all continue to climb. While inflation has technically slowed on paper, the prices people actually pay for daily essentials remain painfully high. Employers adjust wages slowly, often once a year, while costs adjust every month. The result is a slow erosion of purchasing power that leaves even full-time employees feeling perpetually behind. An extra $200 from a side job might mean covering an overdue bill or simply catching up on groceries that used to fit comfortably in the budget. It's a constant chase, and the finish line keeps moving. What surprises many is that this isn't just a low-income issue anymore. The stereotype of the overworked worker used to be tied to entry-level or blue-collar jobs, but data from CNBC and the Bureau of Labor Statistics reveals something different. Nearly half of all people working multiple jobs today have college degrees. They're not unskilled. They're not lazy. They're teachers taking on freelance tutoring, healthcare professionals doing telemedicine consults after hours, analysts driving rideshare between shifts. These are people who did everything right. They studied, they worked, they built careers. Yet they still find themselves needing extra income streams to stay afloat. The American dream didn't disappear overnight. It's just gotten more expensive to maintain. But there's another cost. One that doesn't show up on any paycheck. The cost of time. Working multiple jobs doesn't just strain the body. It consumes every waking hour. People sacrifice weekends, family dinners, sleep, and peace of mind. The commute between jobs eats into rest. The mental toll of constantly being on the clock builds up slowly. Productivity may rise in the short term, but health and happiness often fall in the long run. Studies have shown that people juggling more than one job report higher levels of fatigue, stress, and anxiety. They're constantly chasing the next shift, the next paycheck, the next bill, a cycle that traps millions in survival mode. Debt adds another layer to this pressure. Credit card balances in the U.S. recently surpassed $1 trillion. For the first time in history, the average interest rate is now over 20%. That means even small debts grow quickly. A missed payment or short-term expense can snowball into years of repayments. Add to that student loans, car payments, and rising interest on mortgages, and the result is a financial treadmill that's nearly impossible to step off. For many households, savings have disappeared entirely. Studies show that roughly half of Americans have less than $500 in savings. That means one unexpected bill, a medical expense, a car repair, or even a rent increase can trigger a crisis. It's no wonder that people are turning to extra jobs and side income just to maintain stability. It's worth asking what happens next. Can an economy sustain itself when millions must work multiple jobs just to stay stable? Productivity might rise in the short term, but there's a human breaking point. Financial strain leads to health problems, reduced creativity, and declining family stability. The costs aren't just economic, they're social. A system that demands constant work without real progress eventually collapses under its own weight. The solution isn't simple, but it starts with rethinking what financial stability means. A single paycheck should be enough to live on, not a ticket to constant struggle. People need more than jobs. They need sustainable income, fair wages, and a chance to build wealth, not just survive. Yet, even in this grim landscape, people adapt. Some are learning new skills to transition into higher-paying roles. Others are downsizing or relocating to more affordable areas. A growing number are starting small businesses, trying to take control of their income rather than depend on a single employer. The rise of solopreneurship and remote work has opened new paths. But those paths aren't easy. They require time, education, and a level of financial breathing room that many simply don't have. For millions, there's no luxury of reinvention, only endurance. The truth is, no one should need multiple jobs just to afford a normal life. The idea that one full-time job could provide stability shouldn't feel nostalgic. It should be standard, but that's not the world we're living in. The solution isn't to shame people for working harder. It's to question why they have to. Why does a full-time employee still need a side job to pay rent? Why does economic growth benefit corporations, while the workers who fuel it stay stuck? Why does the idea of rest now feel like a luxury? These questions reveal a deeper issue. The value of labor has not kept up with the cost of living. And that's what makes this more than an economic story. It's a social one. When millions of people spend their lives juggling jobs, there's less time for innovation, community, and creativity. A society built on constant work leaves no space for living. And over time, that doesn't just drain individuals, it weakens the foundation of the economy itself.